Flippy algorithm. In this video, we'll build our first Elementor page. Now, why is this really important? If you're absolutely new to Elementor, check out the beginner's guide that I made, which will help you understand each and everything about Elementor. Now, building the first page is really important, and that's what we're going to do. Now, when you start out with Elementor, there are two kinds of pages. One is the actual WordPress page that is visible to the user. Then there's Elementor page, which is just a template that can be reusable. So if I click on Save Templates, you can see there's a page over here. This is more like a template. This is not visible to the user. It just sits within your library. We're going to actually build a template page here itself. If you want, you can create a page here and click on Edit with Elementor. Even that's the same. But let's say we're just going to use this page everywhere across repeatedly. So I'll just click on Add New. I'll click on Page and I'll just call it First Page. I'll just click on Create Template. Page opens. You'll see your header and your footer. I built this header and footer using Elementor Pro's theme builder, which we also discussed in Elementor Basics playlist. You can check that out. Even this video is a part of Elementor Basics playlist, so you can check out Elementor Basics to know more about Elementor. But we have a header here and we have a footer here, right? And then in between, you just have Elementor template. Now just click on the settings cog in the left corner of your page and you can change the title, and once you publish the page, the status will automatically be changed from DAF to published. But you can have all the statuses such as pending review private that you have usually for WordPress page. You can also hide title. So when the page layout is default, it will get the layout either from your theme or from Elementor Pro's theme builder. So whatever single page template that you have, it will get that design. Since we're designing our first page, we don't want any design whatsoever. We want to define our design. So I'll just click on it, and there are two other options. One is Elementor Canvas that will get rid of your header and footer. It's not getting rid as of now yet, but if I publish the page and if I reload it, and when I select Elementor Canvas as the page layout, it will just get rid of header and footer, either supplied by your theme or by your Elementor Pro's theme builder. You can see that all we have is just a blank page, right? So if you want to keep the header and footer for that page, just select Elementor full width, update and reload. You can change the layout at any time from Elementor Canvas to Elementor full width. It's totally up to you. So there you have it. So this is my footer, this is my header, and in between you just have blank canvas where you can build out stuff using Elementor. I'll just change it to Elementor Canvas for now so that we can focus more on the content itself. Okay, so we have the page. The next thing is that you need to follow a template or a blueprint that I'm going to share with you while building your first page. I'll explain what the blueprint is. So you just click on the hamburger menu. Also make sure you have the latest and greatest Elementor versions. If you have the free version, make sure it's above 3.0, and if you have the pro, again make sure it's 3.x, x being any number. So once you have that, you have two options to set, and there's also a user preferences pane. Click on user preferences and you can adjust few things here, such as panel width. You can choose to show or hide editing handles, but these are usually left as is for better experience. Let's start with site settings. So the site settings, the latest option in Elementor, is really cool. You can set up your site template blueprint that I'm going to share, and here's the blueprint. You need to set up fonts on your website, or it's also called font stack. Second, you need to set up colors on your website. We've already discussed color theory and how to pick colors for your website. And the third thing is that you need to pick graphics for your site. And fourth thing, finally, you need to design the structure. By structure, I mean sections, columns, or widget itself. How do you pick the font, and what kind of font size should you use? Font weight should you use? I'll answer all those questions in this part. Well, it's simple. If you're building a professional website, you'll use sans serif fonts such as Elementor. So Elementor is a marketing website, right? They have to market their products and the text should be as professional as possible. And that's the reason why they use sans serif. And if you're building a site for maybe let's say a wedding photographer, you can use serif or decorative fonts. But remember that serif or decorative fonts should only be used in headings but not body text. Readability should also be a big factor while considering fonts. So even if you choose serif, decorative or handwritten fonts, make sure you just use them in headings and subheadings but not body text, because body text needs to be clearly readable, right? So how do you find out which fonts your favorite websites are using? So if you're building a website, if you're drawing inspiration from website, let's say in this case elementor.com, you just right click and click on inspect. You can simply inspect the font family, and if you scroll down, you can see that the font family is Active Grotesque. Now this is an Adobe font. Most of the professional websites use Adobe fonts. So that brings us to the font sources. Where can you get good fonts? There are two main sources, like I said, Adobe Creative Cloud's Adobe fonts, and the second thing is from Envato Elements. So if you have an Envato Elements subscription, you can go and download the fonts that you want. Again, you can see the serif and sans serif fonts in action. You can also pick decorative. Like I said, serif fonts have that little decorative elements. So if you're building maybe an entertainment website or maybe a historical website, right? For those kind of stuff, you can use serif. Sans serif, on the other hand, are used for professional websites such as blogs and stuff, and they don't have that. They're quite modern, as you can see here. You can also play with fonts. It's not a big deal. You can pick a couple of fonts and play with it. Also, a golden rule of thumb is that you should not have more than 2 fonts on your site. Again, here's another website called kinsta.com. It's a hosting website. And if I right click and inspect, I can find out their fonts. Now they're not visible here, but you can click on computed, scroll down and see the font family, right? So it's Brandon text. Again, this is an Adobe font. You can find most of the professional websites just use Adobe fonts. So Adobe fonts and Envato Element fonts are the two go-to sources. These are premium. For Adobe fonts, you need Creative Cloud for subscription, and for Envato Elements, you need Envato Element subscription. I have both of them, so I use both of them on my projects. But if you want free font sources, you can go with Font Squirrel, Fontello. I'll leave some of those in the description. But since those are free, they'll be used everywhere. You better go with Adobe Fonts. So open up the Creative Cloud app on your site, click on web, and you can simply launch your Adobe Fonts, or you can simply type fonts.adobe.com and you'll be taken to this. So you can search for the fonts that you want. In this case, I'll pick the same font that Elementor is using, which is Active Grotesque. So I'll search for Active, and here it is. I'll just click on that. Like I said, most professional websites are using Adobe Fonts. Since it's a premium service, not everyone will be using it on the web. So you better go with Adobe Fonts. That will make your website stand out a bit more. Also, these are cleared for your personal use and also commercial use. You can see that here. So you don't have to worry about font licensing and stuff. So all you need to do to add this font is click on Add to Web Project. Let's call our project WP Design. You can call it anything you want and choose which fonts you want to show or add in that project, and just click on create. That will create a project, right? So you can click on my Adobe Fonts and the newly created project is available under here. I'll click on web projects and here you get the project ID. It's quite simple to integrate this in your Elementor interface. You need to have Elementor Pro to use this. That's the reason why I keep stressing, just get the Elementor Pro so you can do every goddamn thing out there. So I'll just copy the ID in the Elementor interface. In order to get the fonts, all you need to do is to go to the backend dashboard. So once we pick the fonts that we want, you can add as many Adobe fonts as you want, right? I just picked Active Grotesque. I'll copy the project ID, and in the dashboard, users need to scroll down, click on Elementor, click on Settings, click on Integrations, and under Adobe Fonts, you just need to paste the project ID that you get from the Creative Cloud, right? This is my project ID, WP Design newly created project. I'll just enter the ID, click on Get Project ID. That's it. All the fonts are now available in Elementor interface. It's that simple. You may have to reload the page so that those fonts are loaded. Give it a couple of minutes of time, and all the active grotesque fonts will be available. You can pick any fonts that you want. Since I'm going to build a normal website or a web homepage, I picked sans serif fonts. You can pick serif fonts, which are decorative in nature, right? Maybe for a wedding photography site or maybe anything fun, right? You can play with the fonts, and each and every font gives you a preview of how that's going to look like. So it's quite simple to pick the fonts. In Adobe Fonts, you can also have filters, right? So every font gives you a preview how it's going to look like. Maybe for artists, they can use fonts such as this one and so on, right? There are a lot of things. I just picked Active Grotesque that Elementor is using. You just need to simply click on right click and click on inspect. That will show you the fonts that any website is using. So you can, if you like a website's font, you can simply get that. Obviously not by downloading it, by getting the name of the font and searching it online. And on Adobe, you'll get most of the fonts. So now if I go back to my Elementor page, click on site settings, click on global fonts, click on primary. When I click on family, and when I scroll up all the way to the top, you can see the Adobe fonts being loaded here. So you can pick the active grotesque font. And for headings, usually large size is great. So you can pick a heading primary of 40 and secondary. Again, you can choose something of the same font family. Always keep the font family limited to 2, not more than 2, because fonts are also resources. They might slow down your website. So I'll go with thin, and maybe this time I'll go with 38 or 36. And for text, it's always good to use a sans serif font for text. Roboto is universally accepted. And the fonts that come by default with Elementor are basically Google fonts, all the fonts that load really well. So you pick the font and it'll load from Google server. It's quite simple. And for accent, you can pick a different font. Fallback will be sans serif. I'll right click. You can add a font stack similar to Elementor. I'll just add a font stack similar to Elementor. So they just are using sans serif, and so I just need to copy sans serif. I'll just paste it in my fallback text, in my fallback family. Those are the fonts. I'll go back. I'll update. I also need to update my typography. So all the things. So you have to pick the color and typography for H1, H2 and so on. Also, while picking different headings, you can use the same font family but use a different font weight or a font style. It's really important that you clearly show the difference between H1 and H2 and H3 and so on, because it's really good for SEO, right? For body, obviously we're going to use Roboto. So I'll search for Roboto. And the body, let's keep it at 17. That's good. And the text color, I'll just clear it out. Or maybe you can have a gray color or something, whatever, right? And for links also you can have a color. For H1, like I said, we'll pick a normal color, normal shade of black or gray. And typography, again, we have to pick active grotesque. While picking H2, and let's set the size to 40 pixels. And you can set different size for mobile, desktop and tablet. I'll just do it for desktop. You do it for all the devices. I'll clear this color. And this will also be active grotesque, but the font size should be slightly lesser than this. So maybe you can go with 38 or 37. Let's go with 37 pixels. Also, you can add a weight to this, right? So this weight should be maybe around 900. And this weight can be, some of the fonts don't support all the font weights. So based on what they support, and so on, just fill out the things for rest of the fonts. Pick the same font family, usually the same font family for headings, and just change the font weight and font style also, right? Also, you can add a decoration if you like for some reason. So once the typography is set, once the global fonts are set, we are done with fonts. You can simply update and those settings will be updated. Now we're done with fonts. To the second part in the blueprint, which is colors. How do you pick a color for your website? I've already discussed this in the color theory video on how to pick color, but essentially you should pick a base color, right? You can either do a research. So if you're something intense, something energetic, you can pick this color. And you can go to canva.com and they've explained meanings of each and every colors and different color schemes. I've also explained this in the color theory video. So I highly recommend you watch the color theory video because color can make or break a website. So I'm going to build a revolutionary website and I want a eye-catching primary color. So I'm going with this and I'm choosing a complementary combination. That means this is the primary color and this is the secondary color. There are just two colors used. So this will be my accent color, secondary color and everything else. But if you change it from complementary to any other color schemes, various other colors are used. You can use them for different elements on your site. But to keep it simple, complementary or monochromatic are the best. Monochromatic just changes the intensity of the same color. So if you have something like Ocean WP, which is the website for Ocean WP website, you can check out the website of Ocean WP. It's oceanwp.org, I guess. So they are using a monochromatic scheme. Elementor is using complementary color scheme, right? They're using the red and the green in call to actions, right? Everywhere it's the same red color, except few areas where you see the green color in action, right? Over here and even here and even at the bottom. So that's how you use colors, use them in a limited way. Anyway, so I'll pick this color scheme. I'll copy the primary color. I'll copy the hex code for it. I'll come back, click on global colors, and our primary color is this. I'm done with primary color. Having a color doesn't mean you have to use it everywhere. It's totally optional, but you just have to set it. So this is our secondary color or the complementary color, which is used to balance the primary color. Right, I'll just set that up. Text, we'll go with a shade of gray. Accent, again, it can be the same color or maybe a lighter color, lighter shade of gray or anything. And you can add other colors as well, but these four are totally great. If you're using different shades of this primary color, you can also do that. You can also use different shades. You can just change the intensity or the transparency of these and use. Then that's another way to use color. Also in global fonts, I'll just set the colors. So for my primary, so there's no way to set colors here. You have to go to the typography section, and body I'll leave it as is, and for H1 and H2 I'll just set primary color. So you need to set the globe icon. I think it's not published yet. I'll publish and reload so that it gets the global colors that I can use. Go to site settings, typography. Under H1 I just need to click the global color. For H1 let's use primary color, and for H2 you can also use primary color. For all those you can leave it as is because too much color is not good. Or for H2 let's use this color, right? Doesn't matter. These are just presets. You can obviously override them whenever you're using them, so it's not a big deal, but this is a design system. Also for buttons or links you can use primary color, and hover should be your secondary color. I think I'm done here with colors. So global colors, this is great. Global fonts, we have choose active, grotesque and roboto all over. Typography, I've said that. Now it's time to set buttons. This should be my primary color, and text can be this or black. And hover, I can just choose primary color, and I can simply modify that, right? I'm talking about transparency, or I can make it less intense. So maybe something of that sort. So that's another way to use color. Just use a lighter version of the same color. So buttons are set, border type none, right? I'll go back. Again, you can set form fields. So the label color will be my primary color, and text color, I'll just clear it out. I don't want this color in my text. For focus, I'll use my primary color. For border, I'll just set the border to none. That way it looks good. And I'm done. So we've set colors, we've set fonts, and we've set all the other elements. You can also pick or set anything else that you want and simply hit update. Colors, we have set typography on the font stack. We've also set that to all the buttons and form fields and stuff that we want. And the second thing and the third thing is to pick images. You can get graphics from Envato Elements. There are tons of graphic templates. And my personal favorite is freepik.com. I'm a premium user in this because I really love graphics. And it's like £8 per month, which is quite cheap for what it offers. You can design logos, you can design stuff. It offers graphics, photos, all of that. It's really awesome. So you can use Freepik or again Envato Elements subscription for the same. Of course, you have to customize the graphics to match your branding colors, which are your primary and secondary colors. Keep that in mind, because when we see Elementor's presentation, you can see all those screenshots match their branding colors, right? So this one, so they have that same red and green theme going around. So you have to make sure that even your graphics use most of the elements in your branding color. So that's one thing to remember. Now the final thing is to build the page itself. We're done with the site settings, right? You can simply click this X button. Now you're taken back to the interface. Now the reason why I discussed this blueprint is that you just need to follow this blueprint only once. Once you've set all these things and gathered all the assets that you need for your website, not just your first page, you can build your whole website, and you can completely avoid the first 4 steps, getting fonts, colors, graphics and stuff. You can totally avoid them. You can just focus on building your site, and that's the reason why this blueprint is important. Just set it up once and just use it across your website. You don't have to set it again. while building your first page, make sure you follow this blueprint. Now is the real thing. Now you need to analyze the structure. If your client gives you a PSD, if maybe you drew a mockup using Adobe XD, you have to follow that mockup. And watching that mockup, you just need to create sections, columns, and the necessary widgets for the design. Now, let's say this is my mockup right now, elementor.com. It has a section, it has a gradient background, and it has a heading, subheading, and a button, and then an image, right? And you have to decide which widgets these really are, right? You have heading and you have subheading. So you don't have to actually drag and drop heading, paragraph, heading, paragraph. You can see which widget closely matches this mockup and use that widget. I'll explain that in a bit. So let's create our first section. I'll just click here. It's a simple section. Let's set the height to maybe a minimum height of 600 pixels. Let's click on the section. I'll click on style, gradient background. Let the first color be the primary color. Let me pick let's actually pick a lighter version of my primary color. Or let's pick the primary color itself, and here I'll pick. And for gradients also, you can look up, there are few websites that give you good suggestions on which gradients to use. I think it's using a shade of purple, so let's go with that. I just need to change the location of it, right, just a bit, and it looks like this gradient kind of, right? You can also change the angle to make it look like that. What I'm essentially doing is that I'm seeing the mockup and assuming what are the things that I need to add. First is obviously a section, and then I have a heading, right? It's a big heading. We've already set the fonts and stuff, so we don't have any other problem. I just need to just drag out my heading. I'll say this is my first heading, or this is my first web project. Now you might be wondering, I'm typing in small letters. That's because of few font properties that it has set. Again, it can be H2. It shouldn't be H1 because H1 is used for the page title. Let's align it onto the center. As I dragged in, it just set the default size for my H2. You can obviously change it. Let's change the text color to this. It's using active grotesque font, right? So if I click on typography, it's using the active grotesque font, right? So that's not a big deal. You can also override or set it like that. So this is 900 weight. You can also play with the weights. Some of the fonts, like I said, don't support all the weights, but anyway, let's set the size to 40 pixels, or let's go beyond that. Let's set it to 60 pixels, right? And you can change the font size per device, but anyway, let's set this to 60 pixels. Also, transform can be normal, so that reflects. But if you want all headings, or if you want to capitalize the things, you can use something like that. So you just set the properties. So I have my heading first. That's how they're doing it. And then they have a subheading, right? Let's do that. So you can simply duplicate the heading widget, and let's set this to H5 or H4. Since we set the properties already in the style tab, you don't see a difference here. But if I override the properties, it will get the properties from the default font stack that we've defined in the site settings. I'll just click on this, and this is white color. That's great. Typography, again transform, I'll just change it to normal. And font size, I'll maybe change it to 30 pixels. Let's also change the text itself. I'll go to content. So that's great. Now I have an image. I'll use the same image. Actually, this is a video. I'll just take a screenshot of it for time being, and I'll use the same image just for demonstration purposes. I think I need a bigger window to show you. I'll just go full screen and take a proper screenshot. I took a screenshot of it. That's great. I'll bring browser back to this. So this is an image, or they've used a video. Let's also have a button, and you can link the button to any page, your landing page or anything. I'll use the button widget. Just click. And the default button, I think it's having a border or something. So you can set a border color, or you can use one of the default colors. You can change the button. Maybe you can link it to another page or anything. You can link it to any other page. And the button background color, let's change it to the primary color. And below that, in our mockup, in our imaginary mockup, let's say we have an image. So we have to use an image widget. Let's upload file. I've just taken a screenshot of that. Which is this. And just like that, you can of course change the image from large to maybe medium and align the image perfectly onto the center. Add a padding around the image. Go to advanced. Let's add a margin of 20 pixels around the image. Margin padding always let your content breathe, right? So you have that little option. And this is our first section. We just built our first section. You have to change few properties such as the hover color. So while hovering, you have to make sure that you can actually see the text. So something of that sort. If you don't like any of the options, go to your site settings and change those things if you don't like them. So our first section is done. So you have to approach and see what's the next one. And this can be an image box widget with the image here and the text and subheading over here and all that stuff. So you have to see which kind of widget has the options for you, right? Here we have three things, right? You can design this in many ways, but you should always see if there's a widget available for this particular design and use the widget, because widget is more compact in nature. This looks like a heading and subheading, but a cool thing is that this can be an icon box widget, right? This can be an icon box with the icon removed. So these are basically three icon box widgets. So you can click here, or you can search for box. There are two kinds of boxes, icon box and image box. I'll use the icon box widget here. Just click and drag it around, and it will just occupy the default space. We just need it 3 times, and we also need an inner section within the section, right? Because if I duplicate it, it's just creating a new column. So I'll add an inner section. I'll just click and drag this widget over here into this. I'll duplicate it twice. Let's remove the fourth column. Let's remove the icon from here. The same with here. The same with here, right? Remove the icon, change the heading. This is the title. Let's keep the lorem ipsum as is. Let's actually duplicate this column, the first column twice, so that it gets easier. So you have to visually understand that what are the widgets with which I can achieve this design. Since it looks like an icon widget with the icons removed, you can simply use that. It's quite simple. Rather than dragging 4 or 2 widgets per column, we just have 1 widget per column. Always it's a great thing to do. So this will be feature 2, and this will be feature 3. Also change the color of text. You can also add a lighter color, right? For title, I change the color. For description, again, once you change the properties here, you can simply right click, copy, right click on this widget and click on paste style. Do the same with this widget. If you want to reset, just right click and reset style. So that's really neat. We need a little bit of space around the widget. So margin, let's add a 50 pixels margin so that the content breathes. Also, you can add some padding around this and stuff, right? We don't have the icon, so the link won't work. So that's how you build out stuff, right? So once you build out the first section, you just go with the next section. You visualize what is there in the next section in your mockup. So it's another section with a heading, and then they have a heading, subheading, and some text with a link. So subheading, text, and this is just an image. So you have to visualize what a section is made of, and then just build the section. Now some sections might need some special widgets, and this is another section, right, with icon boxes. You can simply add them. Let's do this. So I'll add this section now. Click on create, add section. The background will be white color. I think we need a white color here, but anyway, we'll just define it over here. Let's add a minimum height to the section of 600 pixels, and in the mockup it's showing add-ons hosting, right? Again, you need to see if any of the widget can fulfill the thing. It's basically an icon box widget. This time we'll have the icons. I'll just duplicate it twice. Also change the typography of the content. Add a little bit of line height to the thing. Copy again, I'll do the paste style stuff. There you have it. So you just change the things that you need. And it also has a link. You can simply add a button. You just need to design or divide your work into sections and columns. You have to visualize which section has this. We'll just build this section out, right? This looks like an image box widget, right? I'll just build this section. I'll also use the same image. So I'll just click on save image as. You have to use your own images. This is just for demonstration purposes, right? I'll call it inspiration. So you have to use the images that you get from the graphic sources, like I mentioned earlier. So I'll just save it to my desktop. Click on save. I'll be using the same PNG. So this element basically has a heading, couple of headings, and text, and a learn more button, and an image. Let's see if we can do that with widget or if we need anything else. So I'll duplicate this section, remove the columns in it. Let's build either this one. Also, one more pro tip here. If you ever think that your project is getting cluttered, just add a little bit of padding to either the section, or also play with margin, either a section or a widget or even the column that it is in. I thought this inner section was a bit cluttered. Clicked on intersection, added a margin of 100 pixels. You can also play with padding and stuff. The same thing with your columns and also with your widgets. Now we're going to build this one. So this is basically two columns. This is heading text. This is another heading. This is just a paragraph. So let's build out two columns. I'll click this and it's basically an image. So I'll just drag the image widget. I'll use the same image just for inspirational purpose. This is just to show you how it's done. You should never use images of others. Let's set it to 60%. Let's add a heading here. I want a couple of headings. So two headings. So the first heading is it's H2. Maybe let's set it to H3 and let's change the style a bit. We want the primary color here. And so let's change the typography a bit. Let's set the size to 30 pixels. Let's set the weight to normal. Let's set the transform to normal again. And so on, right? You can basically set anything that you want. This is next level heading. If this is H3, then this should be H4, right? Let's pick H4 here. Let's also adjust the text color and stuff. Or let's add accent color here, right? Let's also adjust the properties. set the weight to 200. It should be at least clearly visible what the text is. And then some paragraph text, for which you can use text editor, right? Again, we need to adjust the style of it. Text color is fine. Typography, 16. I think the transform should be normal. It should be set in theme styles. I didn't set it. So something of that sort. And how do we position these widgets in the center of the column? Let's also add a little bit of maybe padding, right? 100 pixels padding. You can unlink the padding and you can remove the padding from left and right, or maybe onto the left you can have a padding of 50 pixels. On top you can have different padding. So how do you position it onto the center? You can click on vertical align. You can adjust the options from here. So you have to click on the column vertical align. So you can set the space, around space between. You can align all this at the bottom of whatever possible value. I think middle looks fine. So this is how you align it. So this column is basically this, right? You just choose the font size, font color, images and stuff, and that's it. So basically that's how you build each and everything section by section. Always make sure to add a little bit of space around content. It lets your content breathe so that it's not cluttered, right? And obviously you'll change these text to whatever text you have on your site and so on. So get the graphics from freepik.com or by using Envato Elements. You still need Creative Cloud to edit those graphics. So that's one thing to note. So this is how you build your first page. Just update, your template is published. Now you can go to your dashboard and create an actual WordPress page and use the same template. So I'll create a page called home page. Let's see if we already have a home page. We don't have a home page. I'll click on add new. Obviously this is not my real home page. Just give it a title. Let's call it home. Click on edit with Elementor. This was actually an Elementor template, but we're now using the same template. We'll just publish an actual WordPress page that can be used as home page for our website. And I'll change this from this to Elementor full width. I'll publish it. I'll click on templates. Now when you go to my templates, click on creation date. This is the first page that we just created. Of course I have few other pages, but anyway, just click on insert, click on yes. That will insert the page template into wherever you want. Content width, set it to full width and all that stuff. So once it's properly set, you're good to go. I'll set it to Elementor canvas. Sorry, Elementor full width. It has your header. It also has the page. This top section is a bit messy. Click on section, add a little bit of margin. Maybe 100 pixels margin or 50 pixels margin, whatever it is. If it's not a sticky header, it won't be a problem. So this is how your page will look like. The footer, your page. So this is my home page. I want to set it as home page. I'll go to dashboard, go to general, settings, I think reading, I guess. Click on static page, home page, we'll set it to home. Post page, let's set it to something random. You have to also create post page. I'll click on save changes. Now you can visit your site and you can see your home page in action. If something goes wrong, just adjust those values and now you see your home page in action. So that's how you build your first page. Also make sure you make the necessary adjustments on all the devices. So change the spaces and stuff based on tablet and mobile previews as well. So if you want to change something, also change them, make it responsive. So this is how you build your first page. Also use the blueprint so that you make yourself really comfortable to basically build your whole website. Hopefully this made sense and helped you a lot. If it did, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you don't have Elementor Pro, which I highly recommend, you can get it from the link in the description. Also, you can check out Envato Elements, freepik.com, and of course, Adobe's latest and greatest Creative Cloud subscription. That's it for now. See you in the next one. Peace.